All right, guys, here I am today. Happy to be joined back with Marcelp. Marcel, how you doing, man?
Hey, I'm good, man. Thanks for having me once again. Always a pleasure to join you in these videos. Hope you're doing well as well.
I am doing well. Let me just promote you up here, man. Gonna have you as co-leader in this new clan. And the name of the new clan is Beatdown Time. And that's because today, I actually got this question on Twitter the other day, and Chief Carter said I could share it. And basically, I've gotten this type of question a bunch, and people are wanting to kind of give a video where not only can you share some basic skills for mastering beatdown decks, but also some advanced strategy tips and stuff like that. So I figured, who better to ask than Marcel back on. So the format of today's episode is going to be, we're going to watch a replay or two that you just kind of shared with us in chat here. And while we do that, I'm going to ask you some general questions about Beatdown, because Beatdown is an archetype. It's usually one of the first archetypes that people learn when they're starting out the game. I mean, those classic, the Jason deck, right? I mean, you have the Giant, you have, maybe the Golem in a little while, and then the Lava Hound is like one of the first legendary cards people get. So the question is there more to Beatdown than just throwing down your tank and hoping for the best, or stacking troops behind it? And I guess the answer would be yes, but that's why I have Marcel on. He's going to talk about next level Beatdown. So why don't we go ahead and start the first replay here against I Am Bren Chong. Shout out to Bren Chong, love that guy. Although I'm not sure if I Am Bren Chong is Bren Chong. But anyway, that's another story for another day. So I'm going to press play on here. We're just going to kind of start things rolling here, because I wanted to start out by some basic questions about Beatdown, Marcel. And firstly, can you tell us a little bit about its strengths and weaknesses, and how to take advantage of the strengths while avoiding the weaknesses?
Yeah, for sure. So I think to start off in terms of strengths, you can really, with beatdown decks, especially those with slow tanks, which usually all the beatdown decks have, you can throw a ton more elixir onto the board because of your slow-moving troops than your opponent can. So just the idea behind beatdown is most of the battle you'd have a bunch more elixir on the board, and you're fighting on your opponent's side because you have this big tank to absorb all the tower shots, right? Mm-hmm. And I think another advantage I want to talk about is you are sort of able to force your opponent into awkward plays where usually most decks only have one aggressive play, like a Hog Rider or a Miner plus something. And when you play these really slow plays, like a tank in the back, if you time them correctly, your opponent can be in these awkward scenarios where they won't have anything to play. So those are sort of the strengths amongst others. In terms of weaknesses, especially in single elixir, your opponent is really sort of able to set the pace of the game, especially if they have a much cheaper deck than you. You're going to be in scenarios, if your opponent's playing it right, where you won't have responses sometimes, or at least you won't have the best response to things like Hog Rider or Zap Bait pushes. So there are definitely things that you have to do to sort of cover those weaknesses.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to talk about. And, before we get into all those individual scenarios, and before we hop into some live matches where I can just grill you as you play, I want to talk about 3 specific situations in a beatdown deck in particular, and how you handle those 3 situations. So number 1 is against those fast decks, against the cycle decks. What are you doing? What are you doing when, as soon as you drop your tank, whether it be a Golem, a Giant, a Lava Hound, immediately your opponent's trying to catch you off guard, trying to punish you in the opposite lane usually? How do you handle that situation?
So I think the main goal, especially with really heavy tanks like Golem and Lava Hound, is to really be selective. I feel like I give this tip a lot, but be selective with when you drop your sort of win condition. I say the same thing with Hound decks, but with Hog decks, but especially with your big expensive tank decks. You don't want to be throwing out your Lava Hound or your Golem when you know that they have these really sort of quick, threatening cards in their hand. The best time to tank, to play your big heavy tanks is right after defending a Hog push. So what I like to do, if I don't know what the rotation is, I won't play the Golem or the Lava Hound. Or the Giant's okay because it's only 5 elixir, but especially with Golem and Lava Hound, I would really stay away from just opening with these cards. Wait for your opponent to commit their Hog to the board, and try and see, all right, are they about 3 cards away from the next Hog? If so, that's a great time to drop the Golem. If they try and then throw 3 cards and then the Hog, to pressure you after you've dropped your Golem in that scenario, they're going to be in a world of pain when they try and then defend your Golem, because they have to waste 3 cards basically just to get to the Hog. So that's sort of my basic tip there is really sort of try and play around when they're using their threatening cards, because more often than not, almost every deck will only have like one sort of pressure cycle. And once it gets that up, you drop your tank, and then they're sort of, well, now what do? I have Ice Golem, 2 spells, and Musketeer in hand, and their Hog is 3 cards away, and that's the scenario you want to put them in as a beatdown player.
Okay, so I just started the second replay, by the way, and so before I get to the next little specific question, when are you, so you're not going, do you ever start the game with your tank, specifically a giant, because as you said, it is only 5 elixir, so do you ever start the game with a tank play, or are you the type of player who you want to see what your opponent has first?
So with giants, I typically will start with a giant in the back. I don't think that giant is a bad play. It's a slow card, so you won't lose that investment anytime soon. You can't be punished too much for the giant play. I think the main thing with the main sort of weakness, I guess, with opening with giant or any tank is you don't really know what cards they have in their deck. And I think with beatdown decks especially, because your tank moves so slowly up their side of the board, you really need to know what they're gonna have in their hand and what cards you need to have when your giant is crossing the bridge. So if they have a Skarmy and Horde in their deck, you better make sure that if they have it in rotation, when your giant crosses the river, that you've set your rotation up so you have Fireball and Zap or whatever 2 spells you have. You don't want it to be sort of a matter of chance where you happen to have your spells when your giant is crossing the river. I think that's one of the main things I like to think about with beatdown, is you set up your entire rotation, like an entire cycle or a cycle and a half ahead, so that when your giant crosses the river, you know what cards you're going to have, and you have all the answers in your hand. Does that make sense?
That does make sense, and the follow-up question there is, how do you make sure that you have the cards that you need in your hand? Is it just as easy as if you know they're going to counter your giant with a Skarmy, you're going to not use your log until you're ready for your big push? Or is there other tactics you use to make sure you have those counters to combo with your tank?
So I think it's definitely a mix of those things. It's not always a matter of holding the card the entire time. It really depends, first of all, how heavy and how slow your cycle is. I think for a lot of giant decks especially, say you're playing against a Zap Bait deck and your opponent's playing Barrel and Skeleton Army, oftentimes it's okay to log the Goblin Barrel, because if let's say you play your tank in the back and then they Goblin Barrel and then maybe you log it. If it's in double elixir especially, chances are you're going to play 4 more cards after the log, and you'll get back the log just fine.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
it really depends on what point in your rotation you are, how many more cycle cards you have in your deck. If you have like an Ice Spirit in your deck, which some beatdown decks do to sort of help get over the fact that you're going to have a lot of heavy other cards, then you can get back to the spell. So I think it's really setting up your rotation, which... I guess the answer, it depends, but I want to say sort of count, I guess, how much elixir you think you're gonna spend after playing a card that you need, like a log, or maybe the card that you need is lightning for Inferno Tower, and make sure that when your giant crosses the bridge, either you'll have enough elixir for it or it'll cycle back into your hand.
Okay, yeah, that makes perfect sense. I just finished up your second replay here on my end, so I do have the 2 other scenarios to ask you. Do you mind if I do it in a live match, or do you have another replay you can share? Whatever works for you.
Yeah, I got a couple more.
Sweet.
Here.
All right, we'll throw this one on. And situation number 2 is, this is one thing that I've always kind of struggled with, is, sometimes it works out for me, sometimes it doesn't, but what is the proper play when you're going against your mirror match and your opponent is also playing beatdown? So let's say you're playing a Golem deck and your opponent is 2, and they drop their Golem, and you know they have maybe a 1 or 2 elixir lead on you. What is the proper play for you? Do you also drop your Golem, knowing that you're going to be able to defend a little bit on your side before your Golem gets to the bridge? Or do you switch lanes, or you just start dropping support troops in the back? Like, what is the proper play there when you're going against your mirror?
Right, so the 2 main things I look at against another tank deck are who has the better sort of DPS, damage per second, meaning who can shred through the tank quicker, is the first thing I look at. Because what that means is if your supporting units can kill their tank quicker than they can kill yours, then your supporting units are going to jump over and start killing their troops as they're still working on your giant, right, or your golem. That's the first thing I look at, and the second thing I look at is who has, if you have spells like lightning and fireball, who has the units that'll actually like die, who has like more like spell vulnerable units, and who has the spell resistant units. Okay. So if you have the higher DPS, I would recommend going into their tank, because chances are your supporting units are going to shred through their golem much more quickly. Say your opponent has like baby dragon, which is common in many golem decks, and you have like mini P.E.K.K.A. or you have mega minion. I would recommend going into their tank, because you're probably going to shred through their tank much more quickly than their baby dragon is through yours. And the other thing I would say is, even if you don't have high DPS cards, if you have way more spell resistant cards,
Marcel.
I would say that sometimes you can actually make a decent push without even getting your supporting units through their tank, right? If they have units like Musketeer and Mega Minion, and you can just go Giant Lightning and not really worry about busting through their tank, that's sometimes the correct play to make as well, if that makes sense.
Okay, so if, for example, so going back to my scenario, my opponent plays the Golem before I do, and let's say they have Musketeer and I have like Minion Horde, which I wouldn't normally play in Beatdown deck. But let's pretend I do something that really shreds up a tank fast. Mm-hmm. You would recommend I just mirror their Golem play and then just eat their Golem before it gets to my side?
Yes, with Minion Horde it's a little more sketchy, because I mean, if they have a spell, then you're sort of done.
Yeah.
But I want to say that like if you have like mini P.E.K.K.A. and they don't really have high DPS cards,
better example, yeah.
Yeah, that's more my example, I guess.
Okay. Okay, great. So in the third scenario is, how do you play a beatdown deck differently in double elixir time?
Right. So I want to say in double elixir time, you can really sort of get through a cycle where you'll have almost all your cards. And what I mean by that is, you drop the giant in the back. Even if they pressure you on the other side, chances are you're going to get so much elixir poured into your, elixir bar, right? Because it's double elixir time, and you're going to get the chance to really throw out all your cards. So I think the main thing really is sort of know what the win sort of rotation is going to be. Like, so you look at the rotation, look at yours after going through single elixir. You both know what cards you have in each other's hands. And so you basically should, at that point, be able to say, all right, so all I need to do is, if I get a giant down the lane and they drop their Inferno Tower and I have enough elixir for lightning in hand, I feel like you really need to draw out the entire scenario. And then you probably will expect a Skeleton Army if they're playing Zap Bait. Really sort of go through exactly what rotation you think you'll need and set it up that way. In single elixir, I think one of the main things I do against chip deck, either chip cycle decks or sort of quick pressuring decks, is just avoid chip damage. I think it's really tough to get that big of a push through in single elixir, just because they can pressure you so much that you can't really get all the elixir you need or all the cards you need to support your tank. And so in single elixir, a lot of it is either they make a big mistake and you push through, or you just sort of prevent as much chip damage as you can, so that in double elixir, maybe you'll have the opportunity to ignore one of their pushes or two of their pushes and really break through with one of yours.
Yeah, that seems to be an important point on beatdown decks, right? Is that people, sometimes they're afraid to take a little bit of damage when they should, because it will result in a really big push for them. And vice versa, sometimes they just take too much consistent chip damage without getting that big push together. So sometimes it can be hard to tell when to do it and when not to do it. I find that, especially in single regular elixir time, I've always found that that's when you do take that chip damage, but if you can kind of mitigate that, it can really pay off in the long run.
Yeah, I think what really helps with the mindset of understanding when to take chip damage and when not to is actually playing on the other side. When you play a hog deck or a chip damage deck, try and recognize what makes it hard for you to win. Is it when you go into double elixir and you already have a tower chipped pretty low, or is it when you have a bigger elixir lead but your damage advantage isn't that great? In my experience with the hog deck, I would much rather have their tower pretty low going into double elixir. So all I have to do is defend and cycle fireballs at their tower.
Okay.
Because especially with a hog deck, You're not going to really cycle past their counter in double elixir, just because they get so much more elixir infused. And so they're really able to cycle back to their counter over and over, right?
Exactly, yeah.
The goal is really with the hog deck to get as much chip damage as I can early on, because that's when I can cycle past their counters, and then just sort of find a way to grind it out with fireballs at the end, or maybe a lucky hog.
Yeah.
But so on the other side, obviously, the answer is, well, just prevent all the chip damage early on, and then later in the game, you don't have to worry too much because you can always get to your counter because there's so much elixir being thrown.
No, that's a good point, and it's definitely worth pointing out that beatdown decks really thrive in double elixir time. So you hold off hold them off as much as you can early on, and hopefully you can make that big comeback. Maybe even turn it into a 3-crown. Marcel, do you want to do a live match here?
Let's do it. Are we doing a ladder, or are we gonna do Grand Champ?
I don't know. What do you think? What are you in the mood for?
Let's go for a ladder back. Let's see how long the wait time is. You got about 4 minutes of a wait time here.
4 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, well, give it like 30 seconds while I ask you one more question. I was curious if you like playing the elixir pump in all your beatdown decks, or is it just kind of depends on the deck?
I think Elixir Collector is actually, in my opinion, more about what kind of decks you're expecting to face. When you face decks that have Elixir Collector themselves, and you're playing a slow deck, I'd much rather have Elixir Collector as well, because I just got into a game here, actually.
Okay.
Against Hail. All right,
sweet. We are in.
Hopefully this will be a good game here.
Oh, versus Pompeo. Oh, boy. I didn't hear the name. All right, this is going to... Do you know what he's playing right now?
I believe he's playing Expo, so hopefully this will be a good game. I have to be really careful with my Giant play. And he has Rocket as well.
All right, well, why don't you concentrate here? Don't get too distracted by me. I won't grill you with questions. What do you feel about your starting hand, though? Is it all right, or?
Yeah, it's not too bad. I have Giant, Executioner, playing the Tornado here. So right now I'm really just trying to make sure I don't give up a value Rocket. I might have right here. I hope that... Oh, that actually might be a value Rocket. Yeah. Big mistake. Oh, please miss. Yeah, that was big.
Oh, no, he got it.
As I said it. But he doesn't have... I don't think he'll be able to cycle back to Inferno Tower, so my goal here might be to actually go for a Giant push. Yeah, I'm a little reluctant to commit it, because now if he's able to Expo after defending my Giant, then I might be in trouble. So I'm going to try and see what I can do here.
Yeah, the reason Marcel's... there it is. Wow.
So there's the Inferno Tower. I'm going to throw Lightning down and a Log, actually, here, and hope I can get some good damage. Hopefully a couple of Giant swings. He's probably going to drop his Expo real soon here.
Yeah. And what's your answer? There it is.
Yeah, I'm trying to cycle back to the Giant as fast as I can here. I might be in trouble. Yeah. Actually, I feel like I misplayed this quite a bit, but I do have some good damage on his tower.
It's okay. We'll go back and watch, though. We can kind of tear it apart. But yeah, you did a decent job. Giant's out of rotation, obviously.
Yeah, he doesn't have his Ice Golem, so hopefully my Prince here can jump in. He might log this Prince here, but I'll at least get a couple. Yeah, let me try and focus here. But I think what I need to do at this point, my goal is basically to make sure I have Giant and Lightning. And sort of enough elixir for a full Giant Lightning push coming down here. I'm actually going to play the Giant in the back here and force him to Expo or... sorry, I'm not even...
No, it's okay. No. Pay attention to the game. So what?
Yeah, basically, the goal is to try and get the Lightning ready here.
Yeah. So the thing is, guys, is that obviously Pompeo has the counter to Marcel in the Inferno Tower. Marcel has to save the Lightning to counter that Inferno Tower to reset it to get the Inferno Tower down. But also, Marcel's best counter to Pompeo's win condition, the Expo, happens to also be his Giant. So it's tough to try to juggle all those things at once. I
really misplay this one here. I feel like Giant decks usually have the upper hand here in this matchup. I think what I was doing wrong here, we can look at the replay afterwards.
Yeah.
The opening plays, I really lost a good amount there, where I went for a Giant push when I feel like I should have just cycled logs, right? The main thing in this matchup is not committing your Giant when your opponent hasn't shown Expo yet. You really want to have the Giant in rotation when they have the Expo.
Okay. You want to watch replay and kind of analyze where...
Oh yeah, sure.
We don't have to take too long with it, but maybe just like we can even just watch it on single or double time and just kind of find out maybe, and you'll be able to see what he had in his hand too, and then maybe we can hop into a challenge match to end it off after that.
Yeah, sure. Sounds good.
Sweet.
So I'm in the game right now, watching it in single elixir.
Yeah, me too. I'm at like 245 right now.
Yeah.
So right now, we kind of heard where your head was at, but it got a little. I mean, the problem is when they're playing, Pompeo's deck is so good, especially with a max rocket. Is he only needs to get you down to whatever. What is it? 650?
I think it's 800 something.
800. Yeah. Wow. 650. Real close
I do have max towers, but yeah. So the goal right here, which I did mention before I even did it, was to make stuff.
Yeah, you did.
Okay. I think the mistake was I thought the executioner would walk up. I forgot that it would actually stop for a second there, right, to hit the ice golem.
Yeah.
So at this point, I throw the ice spirit. I don't have much to play. I recognize that I have a good elixir advantage, and so I try to actually make a push here. I drop the giant far enough ahead so that the next spell wouldn't target my tower. I think the big mistake here is I don't have anything else to play. Like right now, if you look at my hand, I don't have. I play now I play the lightning, and the log to kill the Inferno tower, right? But I'm not going to have nearly enough elixir to then cycle back to the giant. So I believe the right play really would have been to just cycle like with a log maybe instead of
the giant.
But I think that the even bigger mistake was giving up the rocket, right? The value rocket, because then I'm sort of forced to pressure him, or at least he already has the damage advantage. So if we were to go into a really slow game, he would then be able to just cycle rockets on my tower, right? So it's a combination of both, but I think taking my medicine at that point and just logging maybe, or not giving up the giant, I think was the right play there.
Yeah. Well, we'll go at the last minute. I'm just going to go ahead and double time it because really, early on, kind of catching you a little bit off with the once you got that value rocket after that, and then the giant had nothing to play it with. That was just kind of a crappy rotation for you in a way,
A little bit, yeah. I think he was also smart in not. I mean, he didn't commit his X-bow till he knew my giant wasn't in there. But yeah, definitely something either I could have done or something he did well there for sure.
I feel like it's a difficult deck for you to go against, even though it's supposed to be Beatdown versus Siege, supposed to be good. I feel like when he has Inferno, that he runs Inferno and obviously Expo.
Zap. So my Tornado actually is pretty useless in that matchup. Yeah, maybe having Zap would make it a true like counter sort of deck where I have two things to reset the Inferno tower. Yeah, maybe we'll call that my saving grace. How about that?
Yeah, of course. Just a bad match, man. You beat Pompeo every time otherwise. But actually, Pompeo actually finished first, not last season, but the season before, and you finished second. So you guys are definitely nemesises in a good way. So let's go ahead and start up a challenge match.
Yeah, so I'm actually in a classic battle round challenge right now. Maybe I can go and start. Either we can do another ladder battle. It's fine with me.
Do another ladder one then. Whatever, man.
Also, we can also do a battle ram beatdown.
So what are you doing playing a classic challenge?
Yeah, so I was going for my free entry, just trying to unlock the card, and then hopefully get it in some chests.
All right, ready when you are, man.
All right, I'm gonna do another ladder battle here.
Okay.
That's pretty sweet. Show the viewers a good game against top player right there.
That was really cool to see. What are the odds? Let me see where you are right now in the world. Are you in the? Yeah. Oh man, you're 34th right now in the world. Before that, you looked like you were top 10.
I was doing pretty well early in the season. I think at this point, I haven't been able to play as much, so hopefully you'll make a push sometime sooner. So I have a giant in hand, so I'm just going to open up with it right here, and I'm going to prevent any chip damage with log here. So right now I'm not expecting to get much out of this giant, because I'll play with Furnace. Not in the best spot. I wish it was one tile lower.
Now, why do you want the one tile lower there?
Other tower would target it.
Okay.
This might be a desperation executioner, but I think this now forces him to play something else. So
yeah,
I'll try and get his princess right here. All right, so
there we go. That was nice.
I think just knowing when you can get value out of an executioner tornado combo is really important. This barrel is way off center. So I need to make sure to hit it. All right.
There you go.
So right now I've seen Skeleton Army, Goblin Barrel, Princess, Hog Rider. Yeah, so right there, the Furnace is one tile lower. As you can see, the other tower's hitting it, right? And so now the Furnace stays alive, and I'll get some Fire Spirits out of it. Right. So my goal right now is, I know now he has skeleton army, so I know push will either need to have log or executioner behind it.
Uh-huh. So at this point, are you thinking about going on offense right now, or?
Not yet. I'm trying to set up my rotation. He'll probably play skeleton army here, and I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I'm going to tornado this out. I just needed to clear that princess, really. Yeah, I'll just tornado this. I'm not sure if I needed the tornado there, but I'm still just sort of trying to wait for an opportunity here to have all my cards in cycle. I think he had an executioner and into a hog here, or no, he'll probably his goblin barrel. I'm fine with that. Again, I'll just prevent as much chip damage as I can, and double elixir time, right?
Yeah, and here we are in double elixir, and that's what we were talking about earlier. Now
he's committed his Inferno Tower, which I'm pretty happy with. Hopefully these fire spirits can go and chip at a good amount. And now I'll play the giant in the back. And I'm ahead in elixir now with that pretty interesting rocket by him right there.
Yeah, the rocket did not get a lot of value, even though...
I'm sure my executioner can snipe this princess across the river, so I'm going to go for that right here.
Okay.
I'm actually going to ignore most of this barrel right here, so I can really...
commit to the push.
Yeah, and now I'll throw a little late on that log right there.
Come on, baby.
All right, so we're getting some damage in. I will have a lightning ready for anything he drops here. All right, and now hopefully I'll have the log ready for a skeleton army coming up. I'll throw it out. There we go. Prediction log.
Now that was it, baby. That was it.
All right.
Oh, that was a beautiful prediction log there. You almost didn't see the skeleton army.
Yeah, so I think we were able to just finally figure out his entire rotation. That prince at the very end is a little awkward because he played the hog. I didn't want to take that because he had rocket, right? So I didn't want to take that damage. Thankfully, the prince has a really quick charge, so I was able to get into action really quickly. And I mean, we pretty much knew, I'm sure if viewers are following, he was going to throw the Inferno Tower, and the only thing he had left at that point was Skeleton Army, which is when which is the best time to throw out these prediction logs.
That was beautiful, man. Let's take a look at that. Can you just share it so we can fast forward to the final push there?
All right.
And that will be the end of the vid. I'm just gonna do it in 4 time to the last like 30 seconds. So yeah, I mean, what I was really impressed by is just your restraint. You know, you weren't like in a big rush to get a huge push going, and rather you just kind of took things easy, found out every card, found out every counter for your tank, and then you committed at the very end to a nice big push. Yeah,
I think that's really the tip I'll have for Beatdown is you don't want to commit to a push when either you're not really sure what they have or you're not sure if you'll have enough elixir. Like at that point, I think it was pretty clear that it was going to be my push, right? I mean, I had the elixir advantage, I had the right rotation, and so it's just a matter of executing at that point. And thankfully, he could have gotten tricky, I guess, with the skeleton army, but he didn't, and that was pretty much the game, right?
Yep, and I'm at right now like 25 seconds left, and there it is, the beautiful prediction log, and you're actually that was not the beautiful. Now's the beautiful prediction log, I think, right? Or did I miss it?
It's right after I lightning the Inferno Tower. I'm not sure.
Okay, yep, okay. So there's the lightning, there's the fire spirit, and here comes boom log. Oh, wow, that was beautiful, man.
Hey, definitely happy with that play for sure. Thanks.
Very nice. Well, man, it's been a pleasure having you on again. Can you tell us about your YouTube channel? What's coming up? I know that you're doing very well over there. Love your format and your style there, and obviously, if people like you here, they should definitely check out your YouTube. What do you have on the horizon there?
Hey, thanks for bringing that up, man. I've definitely been really excited to see some of the feedback I've been getting from viewers and just friends on the YouTube channel. I've put out 4 videos now, looking to put out a lot more. My main goal is to try and put out obviously something new that other YouTubers aren't doing. So I'm trying to focus on either the competitive scene or top of the ladder, and really trying to break down some of my gameplay. In the future, maybe I'll bring on other top players as well. But if you guys enjoy seeing some competitive Clash Royale or just some overall sort of more like advanced tips, definitely check out my channel for sure. It's youtube.com/Marcelp. Hopefully we can put it in the here or in the comments.
Course, guys. Yeah, you can see it on the screen right now, guys, and it will be in the link as well. So Marcel, thanks again for coming on, man. Best of luck with the YouTube channel, and I can't wait to have you back on again.
Hey, thanks a ton, Ash. That was always a pleasure coming and joining you.
No problem. So guys, thanks so much for watching, and as always, take care, guys.